Hi, it's Rachel G. In this video, I want to talk with you about the importance of self-acceptance. It's an important part of any healing journey. It's very common to suffer in silence, to not give yourself permission to tell your story, and what happens is then a part of you remains in the past, whilst another part focuses on surviving and moving on with life. But eventually you will reach a point in time where you just feel stuck and realise that you have not really completely healed your past. The longer that you remain suffering in silence without telling your story, the harder it feels to know where and how to start healing. Living with your past for a long period of time becomes so enmeshed with your identity that the familiarity of it feels like you are managing and dealing with it pretty well. It's only when you encounter new things or challenges that come in contact with your old wounds are you reminded that there does remain unhealed parts of you, and that it can be quite scary because you don't actually know what to expect next. The more frequent that these occurrences happen, the more tired and exhausted you become, until eventually you will reach a point that forces you into taking some kind of action and do whatever it takes to heal yourself. Therefore, pushing the inevitable further into the future really only prolongs your suffering. But don't despair, as there is always an exit route out of suffering and pain. For a true exit route, there isn't such a thing as a quick fix, and it will take time, it will take a commitment, and it will ask you for courage. For the healing process to start, the most important step is self-acceptance. But I just really want to clarify something here. Acceptance doesn't mean that the form of abuse and pain that you may have suffered was okay, because it isn't. It's about accepting the truth of what happened to you. More often than not, with any form of physical or emotional abuse, however large or small, there is a part of you that has you believing that what happened was somehow your fault. The truth of what happened is you were hurt by someone. And it is difficult, if not impossible, to find joy and live a fulfilled life when deep within there is a feeling that somehow you are damaged and unworthy. When you become accustomed to living life with a constant inner battle, it's not only painful, but it's also destructive. That to even entertain the idea of being kind and loving with yourself, I know can feel impossible. However, as you get to truly understand your internal battle and figure out why you believe you were unworthy, you are able to see that it is much more related to not knowing how to feel differently. And with this realization, you can really, truly start to feel an internal shift. Internal work is a beautiful journey of self-discovery, and when you are truly willing to understand why there are wounded parts of you that believe they are not worthy or unlovable, you will move yourself into a process of self-acceptance. Accepting more often than not these younger parts which feel unworthy and unlovable opens you to finding a newfound level of self-compassion and love for yourself. You learn also how courageous and strong you really are, and that you don't have to be afraid of your feelings. Your emotions are teachers of connection, and you become a lot wiser in what you feel and to trust those feelings. The author Tara Brach of Radical Acceptance has a great quote, which is, "The boundary to what we can accept is the boundary to our freedom." Self-acceptance is learning to live with your imperfections so that you can be truly free and live in a joyful state. It's to know and love both your diamonds and your so-called warts. Now, your inner critic is a big contributing factor in why you find it difficult to accept yourself, because it continually likes to focus on telling you what you should be doing and how you should be, which is a problem because the biggest factor to being joyful and happy is always being able to accept yourself just as you are. To always only focus though purely on your strengths and what you're good at, then you will run the risk of developing an overinflated sense of self that doesn't really support you developing other needed areas. And equally, if you focus only on your weaknesses, what you're less good at, then you run the risk of developing a low sense of self that impacts you to function less effectively, and you also don't allow your strengths to shine. Self-acceptance is asking you to accept all parts of the self. Its gifts, its challenges, the rough and the smooth edges, the strengths and the weaknesses, the beautiful and the ugly bits, among with the successes and the failures. True self-acceptance is giving yourself permission to believe that you are a whole person, body, mind, soul and spirit, who is 100% worthy of unconditional love and acceptance, just as you are.